Good morning. Are you a married couple who are looking to put money away into a trust fund, perhaps for children or grandchildren, for inheritance tax purposes? So we need to consider first whether to do that on a joint basis. Do we put in £200,000 as a joint investment into a trust? Or do we set up two separate trust funds of 100,000 each? Mr. puts 100,000 in, Mrs. puts 100,000 in. So there's advantages and disadvantages to both. So I'll take you through a couple of potential planning options that might be advantageous to your individual situation. I'm Richard Higgs from Harold Stevens. We are later life financial planning specialists. We are accredited members of the Society of Later Life Financial Advisors, which is the gold standard of financial advice for people of older age. So it really depends upon whether we're talking about an absolute trust or a flexible trust. An absolute trust is where the beneficiaries are absolutely fixed from outset. You know exactly who you want to benefit from outset, and that has the advantage that there's no inheritance tax consequences in lifetime, and as long as you survive the 7 years, that investment falls outside your estate, and there's no particular advantages or disadvantages of doing that on a joint basis or an individual basis, mainly because you're always assessed for inheritance tax on an individual basis. So even if you did the 200,000 jointly, HMRC would just deem that as 50% investment each, so £100,000 each when it comes to calculating any inheritance tax. However, that is different to a flexible trust. So remember, a flexible trust is where the trustees have complete discretion as to who gets the money, when, how much, and how they do it. So that type of trust obviously has big advantages in terms of flexibility. The main disadvantage of that type of trust is that there's a limit in lifetime before you have to start paying lifetime inheritance tax charges. So on a single basis, the limit is 325,000, so each, before you have to pay lifetime tax charges. And then it's doubled up for a married couple, so you could make a joint investment of 650,000 into a flexible trust before there's a lifetime inheritance tax charge. So if you decide to make this a joint investment, so Mr. and Mrs. invest 650,000 into a discretionary trust fund for their grandchildren, they would be excluded clearly as beneficiaries, because otherwise it wouldn't be effective from an inheritance tax point of view. So that's a consideration. But if you made it two single investments of 325,000 each, so Mr. puts £325,000 into a discretionary trust fund, Mrs. puts £325,000 into a separate discretionary trust fund, that has the advantage that on first death, the surviving spouse could then become a potential beneficiary of that first trust fund. So that really depends on if you are concerned about the income of the surviving spouse, which might be that one of you has a really big, good pension income, but the other one doesn't have any or has a very small pension income. And so you're concerned about the income for the surviving spouse. It would be much better to set it up on a single basis, so that the surviving spouse can then, trustees could then allocate an income to the surviving spouse to supplement their income in retirement. So these are considerations to talk about with your advisor when you're making trust plans for inheritance tax purposes. We'd be delighted to take you through some of these options with you, so don't hesitate to get in touch and we can talk you through the options, your individual circumstances, and look into what's best for you. Okay, see you soon. Bye-bye. Bye.